Hello, friends and fellow Americans. Today, in my opinion, is a sad day. Not a day of victory, not a day of celebration. We have a lot to go over, actually. Venezuela was attacked by the United States. And unlike your favorite gaming YouTuber, who isn't me, they're not going to talk about it. They want to avoid things that are political. However, this is huge news and does affect the gaming industry. I in no way want to minimize the human loss here. That is not what we're doing. I want to cover an aspect of how this affects gaming. Because it does. Whether your other favorite YouTuber likes to admit it or not. So, if you support this kind of content on this endeavor, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm RJ. Let's get into it. So, first we got to describe what happened. So, this is from CBS News. We'll read the article, then we'll discuss, and then we'll discuss how it affects the gaming industry. The U.S. launches military strikes on Venezuela. Trump says Maduro was captured and flown out of the country. Maduro is the Venezuelan president. President Trump said Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured and flown out of the country early Saturday morning, confirming a large-scale strike by the U.S. that drew quick condemnation and concern from across the globe. The U.S. Army's Delta Force, an elite special forces unit, carried out the operation to capture Maduro, officials told CBS News. A Republican senator and Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, indicated that Maduro would face criminal charges in the U.S., where he was indicted years ago, that Rubio anticipates no further action in Venezuela. The Trump administration has long accused Maduro of drug trafficking and working with gangs designated as terrorist organizations, which Maduro denies. The strikes follow months of U.S. military buildup in the region, with the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier and numerous other warships positioned in the Caribbean. In recent weeks, the U.S. has seized 2 oil tankers off Venezuelan-launched deadly strikes on more than 30 boats. The administration says they were carrying drugs and struck what President Trump called the dock area where they load boats up with drugs. So that is the information we have. We have a little more information. CIA source inside Maduro's government-aided U.S. operation. A CIA source inside Venezuela's government helped the U.S. track Maduro's location in the lead-up to his capture, CBS News learned. The role of the CIA source was first reported by the New York Times. The source was part of an extensive network of other intelligence inputs, including overhead and signals intelligence that informed the operation, which was the result of months of meticulous planning and partnership between the CIA and Department of Defense. CIA Director John Ratcliffe had previously said the agency would prioritize the recruitment of human resources. It could not be immediately determined when the source was recruited. The U.S. government has offered a $50 million reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest, which now he has. And then we got a little more on the indictment, and then we'll get into the gaming aspect here in a second. Superseding indictment against Maduro appears to mirror 2020 indictment against him. Bondi shared a superseding indictment against Maduro, members of his family, and his cabinet in a post on X. The indictment prepared by the New York U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton accuses Maduro of conspiracy to commit narco-terrorism and to import cocaine, as well as possession and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. The charges appear to be the same as those in the 2020 indictment of Maduro and several key aides. The indictment states for over 25 years, leaders of the Venezuela have abused their positions of public trust and corrupted once legitimate institutions to import tons of cocaine into the United States, before alleging that Maduro is at the forefront of that corruption and has partnered with his co-conspirators to use his legally obtained authority and the institutions he corroded to transport thousands and thousands of tons of cocaine to the United States. Okay, so basically, our justification for going to war against Venezuela was because cocaine comes from Venezuela to the U.S. Really? Really? Dude, cocaine's been coming to this country for decades. It's coming to the country before Maduro. It's gonna come to the country during Maduro. It's coming to the country after Maduro. Now look, I'm not a super political person on this channel, okay? But I really don't like the idea of us going to war and striking a country that didn't attack us. Sorry, that's just how I'm always going to be. I'm anti-war. Look, I was a Democrat in my teens. I was a libertarian through my early 20s and mid-20s. And I leaned Republican going into my 30s. But I'm mostly an independent. I have independent thoughts. I take good ideas from all those sides and throw out the bad ideas. So I'm an independent. But one thing that's been consistent for me for decades, since I formed a political opinion, my first political opinion of all has been, I'm a non-interventionist. I just am. I don't believe in us attacking other countries unless we're attacked. Now, one could argue that the cocaine itself and the drugs that have been smuggled in this country is worthy of an attack. You do that, that's not what I think about when I think about an attack, right? I think about a 9/11 or something like that. And as far as like the operation goes, why don't we have this level of care and operation to find and capture the co-conspirators of the Epstein stuff? Again, laying all that aside, that's all a side note to the fact that what we're covering is how this affects gaming. And I went to AI for this on Google, and this is what it says. A war with Venezuela would impact the gaming industry by disrupting local markets, potentially cutting off a source of low-cost labor for virtual economies like gold farming, increasing piracy due to scarcity, and forcing developers to rethink game design for a region with high conflict, while also highlighting the use of games for military training. Example, drone simulators. Amidst real-world resource shortages, making gaming a survival tool and a proxy for conflict itself, affecting global studio policies on region-specific play. Impact on players in the economy, economic survival via gaming. Venezuelans often use games like RuneScape for real-world income, like gold farming. Conflict disrupts this virtual economic lifeline, leading to player frustration and potential bans for survival tactics. So yeah, RuneScape's huge in Venezuela, so if you're a RuneScape fan, you might be affected. Increased piracy and digital gaps. Sanctions or conflict would likely cut off legal access, boosting piracy and creating a fractured market where legitimate developers lose revenue. That's great. How about console and PC scarcity? Real-world conflict means fewer imported consoles, Xbox, PlayStations, and PCs, and Nintendo, shifting play to mobile or ordered pirated versions if available. So, we already had a 30-year low as far as console sales go, so that's awesome. Impact on developers and studios. Market instability. Major studios might avoid the region due to economic volatility, sanctions, or political risk, impacting local sales and support. I can give an example of this. So you guys remember, what's that one game called? Stalker 2. It was being developed in Ukraine, and then, war broke out. That kind of affected that game big time, like on its release date, and I think the quality of the product, to be honest. Well, we're about to have that issue in Venezuela as well. let's see. Developing games sensitive to themes of conflict, poverty, and survival becomes complex, potentially affecting content creation. Yeah, an example of that would be, remember, Nintendo was wanting to launch Advanced Wars, but it was around the time that the Ukraine-Russia conflict was happening, so they avoided the release for a while on that game, and then it didn't get marketed very well either as a result. Labor and talent pool. A war could displace skilled Venezuelan developers, affecting global teams, or conversely create new opportunities if they flee to other tech hubs. And there are plenty of talented Venezuelan game developers who now are affected. Broader geographical and thematic shifts. Gaming as training and proxy. The Venezuelan military uses cheap games for training, showing how conflict directly integrates gaming tech, turning virtual warfare into a real-world necessity. And tech Cold War front. Gaming platforms could become battlegrounds for influence or disruption, similar to broader tech rivalries and policy and morality debates. A conflict would intensify debates about the link between virtual and real violence, potentially leading to stricter regulations and calls for more responsible game design and gun control. So again, you know, we see this all the time at school shootings. School shootings happen and then games get less violent, or people bitch about games more being a leading cause. War can be very similar as well. So again, there's so many ways this is going to affect developers. It's going to affect, obviously, directly that country's ability to game. It's going to affect the ability for games coming out of Venezuela to be exported. And overall, it's also going to create some negative sentiment towards games that are more military-like and potentially affect creativity. And prices could be affected as well because, as we know, companies don't let a good crisis go to waste. Anytime a crisis happens, it's a good excuse to raise game prices. So, with all that being said, again, although this affects the gaming industry, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing are the people who are affected by war who didn't ask for it. Again, I believe in an America where we're peaceful, where we shouldn't attack first, and where we can afford things in this country. And again, that's not the America that I see. And this goes for both political parties. You both suck. You both need to stop it, knock it off. And honestly, just put Americans first, above all. Is that hard? And, you know, as far as the impact in the gaming industry goes, it's obviously not good. So this is not good news. I hate delivering it. And hopefully things turn around and this was an isolated incident that doesn't spill over into more of an issue. But that remains to be seen. But for now, this is RJ signing out. Have a good one. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you watching the video. See ya.